How do you do? Storyteller here, and today we have something a bit different than usual. I've recently been very interested in answering some of the more difficult to ask and to answer questions, which is why I've decided to pull up 3 different quizzes, which are not really quizzes, but philosophical questions. This first one is a personality test based on the answers that I give, which will help determine my philosophy, but the other 2 will dive more into my outlook on life. Now, I will be doing a more extended version of this challenge. There is, I found, a list of over 200 philosophy questions which I must answer no matter how difficult they are. That will be saved for a future video because I'm just dabbling for now. But that is my goal. I have it saved, and I will be answering the 200 philosophical questions further on. But for now, let's stick to the little quizzes. Easy start. Anyway, the ultimate philosophical personality test. This is on proprofs.com if you'd like to experience it for yourself. I won't say play it because it's not a game. It's a quiz. But if you would like to take this quiz for yourself, it is on proprofs.com. Oh, let's readjust that. Oh, never mind. It was adjusting it for me. I'm sorry. Let's see. There we go. Do you believe that individuals are defined by the objectives set upon them? The failure to meet these objectives is unacceptable. Selecting yes does not take into account the efforts the individual has invested in their work. Innovation is therefore not prioritized as it involves risk-taking. Risk-taking means the possibility of failure. No. People are not defined by objectives set upon them. People are defined by a number of things. The impact they can make in this world, the change they can make, whether it's acknowledged or not, by how others are affected by them. And we're not even defined by that. We're defined by however we want to define ourselves. It's not up to someone else to tell us how to be defined. So there is no failure in not meeting someone else's objectives. Your objectives are your own, and whether or not you meet them can only be gauged. You are not a failure unless you deem what you have done a failure, and that is a sad conclusion because nothing goes to waste. No effort is put to waste. Even if you don't succeed, if you make the attempt. The reason I'm saying this is you do not take into account the efforts the individual has invested in their work. And I don't believe efforts are ever wasted. Just because someone doesn't necessarily succeed doesn't mean that their efforts were in vain. So I would have to say this is wrong. Let's see if it readjusts itself. Hold on. There we go. Trying to keep it centered. Do you believe, A, the country is strong because the people are free, or B, the stronger the country, the freer the people? So, the country is strong because the people are free, or the stronger the country, the freer the people? That's a very good question. And basically what it's saying is, can a bunch of people who are anarchists and free runners and free thinkers and artists and border pushers, and can all these people who are without limitations create a stronger society than a society built by fortifying yourself and fortifying the area you're in and making it stronger, making it more defensible, making it... I'm picturing an open city where the people roam free and are free to do whatever they please versus a stockade where the people inside are safe because they're protected. And I would have to say no to the second one. As much as setting a protected environment may be good for the morale and may make the people feel safe, in the end they don't feel free. The question is, the free are the people. And that's not true, because as long as the country itself, I'm assuming it means some sort of overlying government or governing feature or protection, that overlying hierarchy. I'm trying to explain. The country itself is a unification versus individuals. A person can only truly be free when they are not under the control of others. And that might not necessarily be a good thing. I'm putting that out there. Complete and utter freedom from everything. That's freedom from rules, freedom from morale, freedom from conscience, freedom from ethical choices. How do you define ethics? Freedom from everything is not necessarily a good thing. But it is not up to the country to become stronger to make the people more free. The people must believe that they're free to strengthen the country. If the people don't believe they're free, you can put people in the most defensible stockade with the highest walls and best military turrets and guard towers and lights, and you can defend it however you want to, but if the people inside feel trapped by those walls, then they won't feel free. You don't even compare it to walls. Compare it to an open kingdom, but it's guarded on the outskirts. It's protected by nuclear warfare. We have nukes, and if you attack us, we'll give you nukes. We'll bomb everyone. That's still a wall. That's still a division between us and the outside. It is still, in essence, a fortress. So it doesn't matter how strong the country is, because if the people inside of it don't feel like they're in control of it, they're not going to feel free. Freedom, in essence, is the control over your own self and the control over your destiny. And the stronger the country is, the less control you have over your own destiny. And again, that's not necessarily a good thing, to be completely free from all control or completely free from all influence or protection or unification. But we're talking in the essence of freedom, without the discussion of whether it's right or wrong. To be free means less control of the country and more control of the people. So that, to me, the country is strong because the people are free. Let's expand this a bit. I have to readjust this. Oh, sorry. I have to readjust this for each one. How do you see the world? Before you answer, a simple experiment. If everything exists is what I can observe, then what of my thoughts? I cannot deny they exist, yet they are scientifically unobservable. Oh, I see what they're trying to say. If the only things that exist are the things that I can see, then my thoughts don't even exist because you can't see them. So thoughts aren't tangible things, so they don't exist, and yet I'm just thinking them. So how do I see the world? A. I believe in what lies beyond the observable, things which I have yet to understand or are beyond myself. Or, I believe in what is observable. There is nothing beyond appearances. I believe you could not have a more wrong or ignorant statement than that. To say that I believe in what is observable and there's nothing beyond appearances says that clearly what I see is what I get. What I see is everything, and there's nothing that exists that I can't see. Clearly there is no greater being. Clearly there is no... There's nothing beyond what I can see. In that essence, electricity doesn't exist. Gravity doesn't exist. Darkness doesn't exist because you can't see darkness. Darkness is the lack thereof of light, so darkness doesn't exist. Gravity doesn't exist. Electricity doesn't exist. Wind doesn't exist. Music doesn't exist. So many things don't make sense. But then it says observe. I'm realizing it doesn't say what I can see. It says what if I can observe, which is sight, sound, smell, taste, whatever the other senses are. Observe. But I can't observe gravity. I can observe the effects of gravity. I can observe that if I do this, it's going to fall. I know that every single time I do this, it's going to fall. I can observe the aftermath of that, but I can't observe gravity itself. I can't observe the force that draws everything to the surface of the earth. I can't observe electricity in its essence. I can observe the striking of lightning because that lightning bursts and connects with the earth and retracts, or reaches from the earth and then retracts. But I can't see the electricity that is in the air. I can't see the shock in my body until I touch something after I've been rubbing my feet on the carpet. That energy exists on my person, in my body, but I can't see it until it manifests itself. So that doesn't mean it doesn't exist until I do something about it. It doesn't just exist because it suddenly manifests. It existed before, even though I couldn't see it. Like a thought. I clearly have thoughts. I have to acknowledge thought. Because that would make no sense if I didn't. It would make everything I'm doing right now completely in vain if I said there are no such thing as thoughts. But what is a thought? It's a non-tangible thing. It doesn't exist. I can't keep it in a jar. I can't manifest it. It's something that cannot be physically, visually, auditorily, other than my tongue. I can talk it, but you can't see my thoughts. There's nothing you can do to make my thoughts apparent. Obviously, because I stutter over my words, I can't express them in the same way that I want to. There's a lot more going on up here than what can come out up here, and that's because thoughts are intangible. Thoughts are something that is completely owned only to the one possessing them. That's something that exists but cannot be entirely manifested, which means it is unobservable to anyone else. So for that reason, for the reason of not being able to see the electricity before the shock, of not being able to understand the thought before it comes out of the mouth, and even then not to its complete fruition, I can't say that word very well. I have to say that I agree. I believe in what lies beyond the observable. Things I've yet to understand are beyond myself. I believe there is much more that I do not know, and that I cannot know because I cannot observe it. You could tie religion into that. You can tie that there's God, that there is a greater being overseeing us. You can tie that in, but all of it pertains to the same thing, things that are not observable, but you believe in because of what manifests from it. And I do believe in that. Whew! This is a long haul. Not even a long haul. There's only 8 questions, but it's definitely fun. I promise, Scout's honor, I'm gonna do the philosophical quiz. The 200 questions. I'm gonna do it. Not in this go, but I will do it. Should a person be provided with a reason to behave or cause to behave? I'm not so sure I understand the question. Should a person be provided with a reason to behave or cause to behave? What I think it's trying to ask me is a reason to behave would be you should behave because it's the right thing to do, or a cause to behave. Cause. Excuse me if I briefly do a word search. You guys know I'm into specific definitions, and I want to know. It says, A cause is a person or thing that gives rise to an action, phenomenon, or condition, a principle, aim, or movement. What I'm thinking it means is motivation. There we go. So should I give a reason, such as your grandmother's coming over for dinner and you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of your grandmother, so you should behave. Logical. You are a rational individual and you should behave just as rational individuals do. Or a cause, a motivation. If you behave, I will reward your good behavior with ice cream afterwards. And to me, despite all I just went through to answer that question, despite all of that, I have to believe it's a reason to behave. I don't believe, and a lot of people might disagree with me, I do not believe in rewarding behavior that is expected. I don't know how to word that. Give me a second to gather my thoughts. That would be like a man walks into, or a person, a person walks into a room with a gun and points the gun at your face and says, I could pull this trigger, but I'm not going to. Puts it away and says, did I do good? I'd like a reward. Now you would have to say to yourself, I'm not going to reward you for not shooting me. That's something that should be obvious. It's obvious that you wouldn't shoot me, just as much as it's obvious that you wouldn't want to raise heck and throw a tantrum or embarrass yourself in front of your grandmother at dinner. It's something that's common sense. If this had said anything else but behave, a reason to, I don't know, anything else but behave. Behaving yourself means keeping yourself composed. Hold on, let's find a direct definition of the word behave. I should keep a dictionary next to me for times like this. Behave. Behave. Act or conduct oneself in a specific way, especially toward others, or conduct oneself in accordance with accepted norms or society or group. Now, that's an interesting theory, because you just put a twist on that. With the accepted norms of a society or group. Now, here's a twist. What if the group you're in behave? It just means to act in accordance with the accepted norms of a society or a group. What if the group you're in has less than moral or less than ethical intentions? Say this group you're in is a cult, and the cult wants to kidnap a child. Don't know. Cult wants to kidnap a child. You have been asked to do this. Should you be provided with a reason to act in accordance with the expectations of a group, such as, you should do this because we're telling you to, logical, or you should do this because if you don't do this, we're going to do something else. In that case, it all depends on the circumstances. Because if it were to behave such as, you should mind yourself at dinner, that would be a logical conclusion, which means a reason. The reason is obvious. Obvious! You should behave because your grandmother's coming to dinner. Obviously, you should behave. You want her to think good of you. You want her to think that you're a good little boy who eats all of his mashed potatoes and deserves a big present at Christmas. Obvious. The cult leader wants you to go and kidnap a child. Logical conclusion. You should do it, because I said so. Well, I don't want to do that. I don't think that's good. Logical conclusion. I don't want to do that. Motivational conclusion. You should do this. And the cult leader is saying, I want you to do this. Because if you don't do this, you will be our sacrifice. That's a lot more motivational. So in this scenario, if you are attempting to make someone see the obvious reason, the ethical reason, the moral reason, if you want to appeal to their humanity, you would want a reason. You would want to appeal to their sense of conclusion, that sense of, oh, well, of course. I don't want to keep using the word logical. I don't want to sound like I'm throwing that word around. But it's the no-brainer. It's the, oh, well, why wouldn't I do that? There's a signpost in the middle of the road. Should I swerve around it? Well, obviously I should swerve around it. In the ethical or moral or logical sense, you would want to reason with the person because that would appeal to their humanity. It would appeal to their sense of, oh, I am reaching a conclusion on my own, and this conclusion is one that benefits me or other people. I'm a good person because I reasoned. I'm going to behave myself at dinner. I'm going to steer away from the post. That's logical. But in the course of something non-ethical, or non-moral, or something hazardous, I believe the cause is a more manipulative sense. Because what was the word I used? Reinforcement? The aid, the bargaining chip, if you will. Something to reward or punish with, instead of reasoning, which is conversational, a cause, a motivation. That's the word I use, a motivation. I wouldn't want, if I wanted to manipulate you, and I wanted you to do something for me, or I wanted you to commit some act, I wouldn't reason with you. It doesn't appeal to your side, that side of you. Any decent person wouldn't be swayed by reasoning. They'd go, well, why would I want to do that? That's a horrible thing to do. I don't want to kidnap children. That's terrible. But a cause, bargaining chip, a person would have to be provided with manipulation, reward, or punishment to achieve the conclusion that person desires. All that to say, all that dark trip into the abyss and back, all that to say, it's situational. If you're trying to convince me to do something good, you would have to appeal to my humanitarian side, appeal to that reason and logic, and reason with me to get what you want, to get me to do what you want me to do. But if you are trying to coerce me, to manipulate me, to corrupt me, you would have to offer manipulation, bargaining chips, that something in your favor or a punishment. Something to bargain with. I'm going to assume they mean the good answer, and I'm going to say, people should be reasoned with. We're all intelligent individuals and we'll make the right choice on our own if given the opportunity. See, this image here is a perfect example of a good thing to do. It's, well, someone is struggling. Of course I'm going to reach down and help them. I mean, all these people up here, this guy right up here is helping me. Why wouldn't I help someone else? Where I could also look at this picture and say, the man is withholding his reach from the struggling man and saying, I'll help you, but you have to do something for me in return if you want me to help you. So it all depends on your intentions. Assuming the intentions are good, I would reason with you. But if the intentions were less than good, I would bargain. Give me a moment. That got a little bit dark, I apologize. How can science be viewed? Scientific theories are verifiable. It seeks the truth and is a careful examination of the facts. Or, scientific theories are falsifiable. It seeks errors and is essentially guesswork. This is a hard one for me. I love science. I have a family of scientists. Somewhat unorthodox science. I appreciate science. But in the appreciation of science, theories are falsifiable. It is easier, in the words of Sherlock Holmes, it is far easier to bend theory. I'm butchering this. It is far easier to bend facts to suit theories than to bend theories to suit facts. It is far easier to come up with a conclusion and tell us how you got there than to follow the steps to reach a conclusion. That requires careful studying and research. Science is supposed to be verifiable, seeks the truth, and is a careful examination of the facts. That's what, in essence, it is. That is what a theory is supposed to be. It's the theory to conjecturing to something of a conclusion. There's never a full conclusion because we never have all of the answers. But the theories themselves are verifiable in retracing the steps, but unfortunately they are also falsifiable. People can bend facts or even subconsciously invent facts in their mind to suit their own theories. It does not. I disagree with the fact that it seeks errors. No one seeks errors. But they might stumble across them and interpret them as evidence, if not interpreted correctly. It is essentially guesswork. It is a process of guesswork. It's a process of coming up with several different ideas and narrowing down those ideas until there is only one conclusion left. It is the elimination of all other possibilities. And in that regard, scientific theory, true scientific theory, in its core essence, without human integration, without incorporating humans that could misuse it or use it for manipulation or use it to twist thoughts, in its core essence, scientific theories are supposed to be verifiable, seeking the truth and a careful examination of facts to the elimination of all other possibilities. And I will answer that. Can it be corrupted? Yes, it can, but so can everything else. But in its core, scientific theory is a careful examination. There we go. You are diagnosed with cancer. You do not have long to live. You have two choices. Based on scientific grounds and persuasion from doctors to undergo treatment to cure your cancer. I'm guessing that means I'm going to undergo treatment, like chemotherapy. Or take responsibility and define the remainder of your life, whether it be spending time with your loved ones or seeking experiences outside of your comfort zone. Without becoming overly morbid, this is actually something I've given quite a bit of thought to, and I still don't have an answer. That being, if I was told I was dying, and I could either choose to go rigorous treatments, which could possibly maybe give me a chance to live and continue on with my life, and have extended time with my family in the life that I have, to possibly create more a more fulfilling existence and contribute to society. Or I can realize what time I have left and use it to spend time with family, to say things I was never going to say or never had the courage to say, to reach out to people that I wouldn't have had the courage to before, to experience new things and thrills and adventures that I might not have gone before because of the danger. And this is the best answer I can give, is that the life I live is a life where I try to experience life to the fullest. I try to never let anyone go without them knowing how I feel about them or telling them what's on my mind. I try to never end a conversation with someone without them knowing how I feel. I try never to let loved ones leave or go anywhere without them knowing that I love them, like my husband. He never leaves the house without me reminding him that I love him, because morbidly, in the back of my mind, I say, what if I never get that opportunity again? I live every single day taking as many chances as I can, regardless of, they might be risky. I live a risky life. That's me. That has always been me. I live a life loving life. I love life. I love adventure. I love thrills, and I love experiencing new things and meeting new people. As much as I'm an introvert and I'm awkward around people, I love meeting new people. I try to make a difference in people's lives, even when it hurts me, and it has before. I've gone to extremes to try to make a difference where I can, to the point where I end up suffering from it. But in the end, I feel no regret for what I've done, because everything has led me up to a certain point. So all that to say, I spend every single day living life to the greatest extreme I can, and spending time with my loved ones and making sure they know that they're loved and that I care for them, telling people how I feel in the moment. And with that in mind, I think I would have the courage to take the chance of a cure. Even if it means rigorous treatments, even if it means horrible side effects and sickness in the time, I would be willing to undergo that. Because I had known up to that point that I had already lived a fulfilling life. And even if the treatment doesn't work, and that time I have left is squandered with treatments, I believe the time I had was spent making people know how much I care about them, and taking every opportunity I can to live life. So I don't think that time would be wasted. As much as it would be gone, and that time would have been in treatments, and I could have been with family during that time, I don't think there's any loss. Because I'm happy with the life I have and the life I've had. And if I were to go today, I don't want to, but if I were to go today, I don't have any doubt that people would know that I valued them and cared about them. And people would know that I lived a very fulfilling life and that I've done as much as I can to experience it in the time that I've had. So if I did have that short time, I would use it to do the best I could, to extend it just to be with those people longer. But I wouldn't feel that time was wasted if it didn't work. It's worth a try. Anything is worth a try. It's worth the chance to try to live. I will take a gamble on trying to live, because I know the people I love know that they're loved, and I know my life so far has been worth living. That's the only answer I can give. Whoop. It's getting very deep, and I still have 2 more quizzes. If you were a manager to your employees, you would A. Make your employees perform regardless of moral consequences if it meant more effective organization. That's a no. Understand that your employees are rational beings that are not defined by their physical performance, but their mental dexterity in providing efficient results, possibly. Evaluate them solely according to empirical measurements and statistical analysis. Oh, I hate that. Or frequently meet your employees by developing power to the lowest level. Get beyond rational analysis, experiment, seek and try out new ideas. Talk the walk and walk the talk. What I think the last question is trying to say is get down to their level. Don't be a manager, be a leader. Meet them where they are. The theory that you're only as strong as your weakest link comes into play with personal mentoring. That means me being with them, trying out their ideas, talking to them and experimenting with them, and giving each of their ideas a chance to fly on its own. Because as much as they might be inexperienced, these are all intelligent people. I have to assume that I personally, I'm a manager. This is if I were a manager. I would hire intelligent people. So if I trust that I hired intelligent people and that I didn't make a mistake, I have to have some kind of faith in their abilities. I would want to walk with them and talk with them and work with them and experiment with them and try every idea and work through every failure right side by side with them. I would want to be an integrated part of that team to build each other up, good and bad, to achieve what we're all hoping to achieve, which is success. There we go. What do you think gives life its meaning? Boy. A. Doing something big that is free of the involvement of anyone's will except for yourself. Its origin, execution, and the end is all on you. Well, that's a lonely conclusion. And who else is going to remember it if they weren't a part of it? Living for a reason. Everything that must be done must have a purpose. If there is no well-defined reason of why you're doing it, then there's no sense in doing it. I don't agree with that. Because you could say, what's the sense in skydiving? You don't achieve anything. You don't get anything in the end. You walk away $300 later, and you have nothing to show for the experience except the experience. Which, that's not a well-defined reason. Experience. What are you experiencing? What are you experienced in? What can you take away from it? What money can you make from it? What novel can you write from this? What can you contribute to society because of this? Nothing. But it's for myself. That's not a well-defined reason. That doesn't contribute anything, but part of living life is about spontaneity. That's not a well-defined reason either. So I disagree with that. I hope you've been able to hear me this whole time. I just realized my microphone has been turned. Sorry about that. I hope it's still working. C. Keeping yourself away from everything which cannot be logically defined or has no proof of existence, even if it's about God. Believing in only those things which can be scientifically or reasonably expressed. Well, if you only focus on the things you know about, you're never going to learn anything new. If you never experiment with thought, if you never open your mind to things which you don't personally agree with or you don't see as being logically defined. I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't logically defined, such as love. But if you go through life never experiencing love or never experiencing the joy of... Even joy. Joy is not logically defined. Never experiencing joy or love or sadness is not logical. That would be a life without emotions. And to me, a life without emotions, though could be scientifically contributing because of the lack of emotions, you're unbiased, you'd make a great politician or lawyer. But it's those biases, it's those emotions, it's those spontaneous feelings, it's those crazy, overwhelming, completely irrational feelings that make a person who they are. Without it, we'd all be horrendously boring. We'd all be strict, sternly logical creatures, which to many people might sound like a great thing. but it robs you of a lot of your humanity, a lot of your personality. Personality is based on the quirkiness of each emotion working with your mind. If we never cried over a sad song we heard that reminded us of our childhood, if we never smiled to ourselves of an old dusty black and white photograph of a family member hanging on the wall, if we never laughed our butts off at the stupidest joke you could possibly hear for no reason, you don't even know why you're laughing, but you can't stop laughing and it takes your breath away. If you can't walk down a lonely street and just enjoy the silent melancholy of the awareness of time and just not wallow, but walk hand in hand with that melancholy. If you could never experience emotions, you're robbed of what most of humanity is, of what most of our own perception is. We perceive things based on how they make us feel. And emotions are not logically defined. I'm not even going to touch the existence of God or religion or anything scientific. I can leave it at, there are lots of things that can't be logically defined. And most of those things are what makes life beautiful. D. Giving your life a creative touch of music, art, or literature. It's the best way you can make your life meaningful. Are you talking about experiencing it or creating it? Or D, or E, I guess. B, C, D, E, E. Dedicating your life for something big, something that is or will affect other people's life for good. Now, I believe they shoot themselves in the foot here by saying something big, because I don't believe affecting other people's lives has to be big. But I do believe in affecting people's lives for good. This is difficult, and I don't really like any of the other answers. I kind of like the music, art, or literature, but it's not the best way to make your life meaningful. They do make life meaningful, but it's not the best way. Life is. I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to choose my answer, and I'll explain it afterwards, but I'll tell you what I believe life is. What life gives, what meaning comes from life. Life is an opportunity to experience things for ourselves, to follow wild ambitions, crazy dreams, completely illogical feelings. It's to love people, whether it's romantic love or not. To love things, to not things. To love. Whether it be a parent, a spouse, or even a pet. To experience that love and loyalty and devotion that can only come with the closest of bond. To make friendship. To sacrifice. To feel that sacrifice, but to be proud of decisions. To make failures, but to learn from them. To achieve things we want to achieve, to consider ourselves successful in certain actions, and to accept our own weaknesses in others so that we can learn from them. Life is doing all that we can in the time that we can, both to experience life for itself and to make this world we have better for those who come after us or those who are with us. You might not be able to change the world for the next generation. The next 50 years, they might not remember who you are. There might be nothing left to remember you. But if you can make an impact in the time that you have here, if you can impact the people that are here, the people who know you now, that, to me, gives life a meaning. Because no matter what you do, if you do something for people, if you are kind, that kindness, as much as it might seem like kindness goes without reward and no good deed goes unpunished, I believe somewhere along the line, that goodness will stay alive in their hearts. Whether it be a simple good deed which passes on to another good deed, which makes another person do a good deed, or whether it's something impactful, saving someone's life, or adopting a child, or curing a disease, whether it's something drastically good or something as simple as you paid for someone's coffee in a line at the cafe, and that person is grateful and wears a smile on their face for the rest of the day. If you can make one person smile, or one person's life a little bit better, I believe that's what gives it meaning. Experience is so much. Life is meant to be experienced, but in that experience, if we can make other people's experiences better, I believe that gives us purpose. If I can keep one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one heart the aching, or soothe one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. It shall not be in vain. I butchered that, but that was Emily Dickinson. I butchered that horrendously, but you got the essence. If I can do something good for someone, then it's not in vain. Which is why I'm choosing the last one. Oh, and that was the last question. You got romanticist. Romanticism. The romanticist, an individual who strongly believes that it is their will against the world. Whether their actions are rational or irrational doesn't matter. The romanticist will sacrifice everything for their ideals. This in turn will result in unsurpassed and immortal greatness or irrecoverable failure. A romanticist is a creator, an artist, someone that lives on pure freedom and imagination. Nothing constrains a romanticist. Even for moral values, if meant to be sacrificed for an ideal, is but a small price to pay. This results in radical innovations, thinking that deviates from rational analysis. For a romanticist individual, learning comes from failure, and the outcome is reinvention. I like that very much. I like that, but I don't agree with all of it. I don't believe that nothing constrains the romanticist. And I don't believe in sacrificing moral values for an ideal. But the rest of it, I would pretty much agree with. I specifically love the end. Learning comes from failure, and the outcome is reinvention. I very much like that. That would make an awesome tattoo. Anyway, I promised you guys 3 quizzes, and I've got 3. So, onward and forward. Let's keep going before I start to get bummed out. Here we go. This 8-question test will reveal your school of philosophy. Can we guess your school of philosophy by this 8-question test? Sorry. What is the most important thing to you? A. Finding happiness. B. Constantly learning new things. C. Living by the rules. D. Helping others. I'm going to stop lettering and just continue. Getting a good education. spending time with your loved ones, experiencing new things, or nothing is important. Oh, that's bleak. Hope I used that word right. Finding happiness. I'm going to start with this one and say, happiness is not something that can necessarily be found. It's something that has to be accepted. In that, I mean, no matter how far you go, no matter how much you own or how much money you have, no matter if you find your soulmate or your true love, no matter how many lips you kiss, no matter how many bottles of wine you drink, no matter how many gold piles you roll in, you're never going to find happiness. Happiness comes with acceptance. Acceptance of oneself, acceptance of circumstances, forgiving of oneself, forgiving of others, and coming to the conclusion that you are happy because you believe yourself to be the best possible outcome of what could be. You have to accept you're happy with yourself. You're happy with life. You're content. You don't need anything to be happy. And you're grateful. You're thankful. It's that attitude of thankfulness for what you have, the time that you have. And to be truly happy is to be aware of how easily it could all go away, but being grateful that it hasn't gone away. Learning new things is an excellent form. What was even the question? What was important to me? Learning new things is important because it expands your mind, it expands your perception. But that's not the most important thing to me. You can learn from failure, true, and that is important. But that's not the most important. Living by the rules is certainly not the most important to me because many rules are meant to be broken. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm not actually sorry. I don't know why I'm sorry because I'm not. But living by the rules is certainly not the most important thing to me because many rules are meant to be broken and many rules should be broken. There are so many rules that should be broken, and living by the rules is not a way to make a memorable life. Helping others. Helping others is extremely important. By the way, I'm going to give my reasons on each of these and then choose one. So I'm not passing by these. I could go back and choose any of them, but I'm just giving my reasons. Helping others I just bumped the camera, is extremely important because it shows selflessness. When you help others, you feel better. Yes, you feel better about yourself, but you feel as though you're contributing, that you're making a difference, and making a difference is hugely important, but I don't know if it's the most important. Getting a good education, let's be honest, those of you watching who are still in school, please stay in school. I don't believe a highly educated person is any more happy than the most dense individual on the planet. In fact, I think the most dense person is probably more happy. Because the more information you have, the more critical you are of the world, the more critical you are of yourself, the more you feel like you need to have more in order to be successful. You feel like you're never enough. You have regrets about the things you did study versus the things you didn't study. In the end, it's not about how much you know, but what you can do with that information you have. So it's not about having a good education. It's about having the right mindset. Spending time with your loved ones. This kind of goes without saying. Time is fleeting. Nobody lives forever. Things don't last forever. Structures break apart. People leave. Others are taken from us. And there should never be an opportunity where you could have spent time with someone where you chose not to. Unless you have a very good reason. dire reason. You should never miss an opportunity to spend time with someone you truly love. Because it doesn't last forever. Not to say that love doesn't last forever. That I'm not even gonna touch. But time doesn't last forever, obviously. Time is a social construct, don't get me started. Oh my gosh. Lives don't last forever. And I believe you should cherish the time you have. Experiencing new things. Again, extremely important. That's like constantly learning new things, the thing from before. New things are awesome. New things are very important to a very fulfilling life. And to live a life without regrets is constantly expanding your idea of new things and your idea of your social construct and your perception to widen it. You should have an open mind, but it's not the most important thing, or nothing is important, and that's not true. Everything is important. Life is important. You're important. I'm important. Everything is important. Everything plays a role. I believe in the butterfly effect. Even the smallest little thing can have a huge outcome in the end. I don't believe that anything is not important. Everything plays a role somewhere. Everything is important to something or someone. Everything matters. Everything matters. Insignificant, inconsequential little things matter in the long run, because it's those things that can result into bigger things. Long-winded answer, all that to say, out of all these things that have been listed, spending time with your loved ones is the one I probably think is the most important. Because to me, it's the one that's the most fleeting. It's the one that's the most unsure. Happiness is defined by your own perception. New things can always be learned, as long as you're still breathing. You shouldn't live by the rules. You should question the rules and defy the rules as long as they're meant to be defied. And if they're not meant to be defied, look at them again. And look at them again, and look at them again, and make sure they're not meant to be defied. Because not all rules are good. Some are. But not always. Helping others is wonderful. Helping others is a great thing to do. That's a hard one. Helping others is important. But to me, it's not the most important. Whew, that was hard. Which statement is the most difficult for you to accept? Oh boy, hold on, I need a drink of water. Quick breather, guys. We're almost an hour in. Woo. Okay. Human beings have free will. Yes, it is highly influenced, and we are presented... Let me say this. Everyone has the ability to choose. We all have the ability to make choices for ourselves, but we must also accept consequences for the choices we make. So yes, human beings have free will. I do not find that difficult to accept. I'm starting to lose my voice. Suffering is a necessary evil. I'm going to go back to that one. The only thing we truly know is that we know nothing. I absolutely agree with that. We know so little. We've explored so little of our ocean. We've explored such a tiny speck of the universe. We know nothing of the universe beyond the universe. We know nothing of life after death. We can only speculate. We know nothing. We know nothing. That's absolutely true. Everything can be learned through scientific inquiry. Wrong. I'll go back to that, but that's wrong. Some things don't have answers. Some things require faith, or the lack thereof. Some things can't be learned until it's too late to answer the question, like death. What comes with death, we have no idea, but scientific inquiry isn't going to answer that. Only experience is going to answer that. So that's a possibility for one of my answers. The world is entirely predictable. No. Somewhat. Okay, somewhat. Because history does repeat itself. History repeats itself. The world as a society is ever changing and ever forming, and that's why it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it cannot be contained. Society as people are ever changing. Cultures are changing. Ethics are changing. Ideals are changing ever so. And you could have been 100 years ago, you would have never known where we are today. 500 years ago, you would have absolutely no idea of all the things we would do and all the things we would screw up in the meantime. But that's what makes the world beautiful. Is it predictable? In some ways, but not always. So I only partially agree with that, which means I only partially disagree. Occasionally, being sad makes you appreciate true happiness. That is probably the most true statement on this form. I thought that we know nothing was the truest. But in actuality, being sad sometimes does make you appreciate true happiness. God exists. Why do you have to throw a curveball like that? Why do you have to throw something so blatantly directed and targeted at me? Okay. Everyone is born with an innate sense of morality. Born with it, debatable. Developing it based on the culture, yes. So far, up in the running, we have suffering is a necessary evil. And to that, I wanted to go back to it because I wanted to say this is true, but not in the sense that you might think. Suffering, we think of torture, we think of burning pits and racks and people crying out for mercy, but suffering can be silent. Suffering can be holding back tears when your heart is breaking. Suffering can be watching and being completely helpless to stop something you don't want to see happen. It can be that feeling of being helpless or useless to help someone else. Suffering comes in many forms, and in my opinion, it is necessary for life. Life is about suffering and then learning to overcome that suffering. So I do believe that is true, so I do not disagree with it. Everything can be learned through scientific inquiry. I don't agree with that. So we'll call that 1. The world is entirely predictable. I only half agree, half disagree with that, so I'm not going to count that. God exists. Understand me. I'm going to break this down for you. I believe that God exists. But that doesn't mean it's easy for me to accept. I find it hard to find evidence, you might say, to find true, conclusive, the voice from the parting clouds, the same being that parted the Red Sea and spoke from the mountaintop and rose the dead, is now silent. Silent as the early morning. Why? Why would a God go from all-powerful, intervening, answering, to silent? Now, most of you will hear that and go, oh, well, you don't sound like a believer. And that's not true, because I can look around and see the wonders that are around us. And I can look at each and every one of us, and I can see the beautiful design, and I know there's handiwork behind it. As someone who appreciates carpentry and someone who appreciates intricate art, I know the brushstrokes of a master, the brushstrokes of an artist, and I know there is intelligent design. That doesn't make it easy to accept. The question is, which one of these is the most difficult for me to accept? It's not easy for me to accept, but I still believe it. Which defies this question, which is everything can be learned through scientific inquiry. It cannot. Some things require faith. And that's all I can say as I click this answer, is that some things require faith. What was your favorite subject in school? Well, I didn't technically go to school. I was homeschooled, and even then, that's sketchy at best. I don't know if you guys can see behind my head. I'm moving it over. Religious studies. Nope. Physics. I never actually got a physics class, but interestingly enough, I actually went through a period of time where I was fascinated by physics. I kept a huge notebook, and I would listen in. I would go to YouTube and I'd listen to physics teachings and lessons, and then I'd go through instructional videos where they did diagrams explaining all different theories and all the different equations, and I was fascinated by physics and by optics. I love the idea of that type of research and science. Physics is incredibly interesting to me, especially because of the cause and effect theory of if you do this, this will happen. If you throw this, this will fall at this rate. It's the things around us that we take for granted because we don't think about it. But I love physics, but I never got to learn it. I never got to have a teacher. I did learn some of it, as much as I could on my own, but I never had a teacher. Drama. Darling, I love drama. I love my theater classes. I love my public speaking. I love drama. English. I love my English. I love creative writing. I love tearing apart sentences and looking for the meanings and looking for the symbolism and looking. We had, in our homeschooling group, we had a man who would be a volunteer teacher. His name was Luca Coppa. He has since passed away, unfortunately. But Mr. Coppa taught us to look for the symbolism in the small details. He would show us writings. His favorite one to study was, of course, The Great Gatsby, which is loaded to the brim, book cover to cover with symbolism, and I love it. But he taught us to look for the subtle details. Not this character nudges a glass off of the desk and it shatters and it's symbolism for the world shattering apart or the story coming apart or this person's psyche being shattered. It's the little things. A character pulls a watch out of their pocket and looks at the watch, turns it over in their hand, and slides it back. But you notice the person's nails are chipped away, which means this, which means this, which means this. There's a light flickering and it means unsustainability, but the light is this strange color, but this color symbolizes this. It's the tiny details. Tiny details. That taught me that a writer will never include something unless it's relevant. I used to not give a crap about the tiny details. I used to look for the core of the story, the characters, character development, but it's in the tiny details that the writer includes, and they know why they're including it. Something can seem completely irrelevant, such as the wind or the temperature or the time on the clock, but that time can mean something. That time can relate to something. That time could be special. It's so many things that play a part of symbolism. I love that. I'm going to stop ranting. Math, I hate math. Biology, never took it. Music, I have a fun story. I love music. I adore music. I love to play the piano. I have never once been able to learn sheet music. I've never learned how to read music, but I love music. I love to play, but I play by ear. I play by watching other people play. I watch hand movements. I cannot learn by looking at sheet music. It makes no sense to me. Art, I love art. I love drawing classes. I've taken 2 drawing classes and then a figure drawing class. I've done painting. I've done so many art classes, and I love it. And art is so broad. There's so many different expressions of art. I love it. Chemistry, I never took it. So in all of these, there's drama, English, music, and art. I'll eliminate music because I never actually learned anything from it. So we have drama, English, and art. I love art. I love English. I love drama. But of the 3, it asks me what my favorite subject in school was, which does not mean what I love now. So at the time, drama was my favorite. I love to be theatrical. I love to be on the stage. I love to perform. I loved it. So drama was my favorite in school, even though art and English are more of my forte. Now, there's a dancing baboon in the background of my video, and I would love to throw something at him, but I won't do it on camera. On to the next. Which statement best, describes your opinion of vegetarianism? I love meat, and I find vegetarianism boring. That's not true. I'm not a vegetarian because I like meat too much. Possibly. I will crop you out of this video.
I'm not in the video!
Yes, you are.
What do you mean?
Your voice is.
Oh shit, alright.
I have a highly sensitive microphone. And I will kill you.
I'm your husband! Wait, am I still recording?
Yes.
Oh. Alright.
I'm not a vegetarian because I believe human life is worth more than animal life. Wait. Believe that human life is worth more than animal life? That doesn't make sense. Then why would I be a vegetarian? That would mean I'm not a cannibal. I'm not a vegetarian, but I would like to cut down on my meat consumption. That actually is very close. I'm not a vegetarian, but I respect the choices of people who are. I am a vegetarian, but I respect the people who are not. Blah, blah. Okay, I'm done reading. I'm a vegetarian, and I really judge people who eat meat. No. Okay. I'm not a vegetarian, but I would love to cut down on my meat consumption, mostly just because it's not entirely healthy, and I'm not a huge fan of, like, red meats or porks or things like that. I like chicken, but not too often, so I'm not a vegetarian, but I would cut down on my meat consumption. Which virtue do you value the most? There is compassion, which is... compassion. Let's do a definition search on compassion. Compassion. It is sympathy, pity, and concern for sufferings or misfortunes of others. So that would be, if I'm taking this correctly, me being able to see someone suffering and feel sorry for them and wanting to console them, which to me is not the one I value the most. Faith. Faith is the ability to believe in the things that are unseen. Faith is required in many aspects of life, not just in a religious way. Faith is required to believe in hopes and dreams and the ambitions that you have. It's having faith in yourself, and you're having faith in other people, having faith in the belief that things will eventually work out for the best. I just want to point out that I made a beautiful chicken marsala dinner and he put ketchup on it. Anyway, humility.
You had to put that in the video?
Hush. Humility. They can see you, by the way.
Oh, they can see?
Humility. To me, let's do a definition search again, so I have a perfect understanding of what they mean. Hush. Modest or low views of one's importance. I don't believe in having a low view of one's own importance. I think it's important to have a view that everything you do does have a purpose and it does make a difference. So I actually don't agree with that at all. Justice. This is difficult. I'm a strong believer in justice. I'm a strong believer in what comes around goes around. People will be met with their actions, and people deserve to face the consequences for the choices that they make. I am a strong supporter of justice, but I don't know if it's what I would value most. Integrity. The definition of integrity, I can tell you. It's doing the right thing when no one is looking. Extremely important. Because without integrity, you lose your self-respect, you lose the respect of others, you break bonds, you break trust. Integrity is needed to have any kind of true relationship or bond with people. Courage. Let's do a definition search. Might as well. Courage. The ability to do something that frightens one. Strength in the face of pain or grief. Extremely important. That means in the good times, you can lead and you can have the ability to pursue things that might frighten you, but you're willing to overcome for the sake of overcoming them. Or in bad times or in frightening times, you're able to overcome those things and see the potentiality for a better outcome. Patience, being it, I know the definition of patience. I live patience. Honesty. Honesty inherently is good, but is not always good. At its core, honesty is telling the truth, but it means telling the truth even when it hurts, and honesty is not always a good thing. I don't always want to be honest with people. Sometimes I want to be nice. Intelligence. I don't know if you could call this a virtue. A value. It's virtue. Can we look up virtue? Virtue. Behavior showing high moral standards. High moral standards. So which moral standard? I'll narrow it down. A moral standard. I would ordinarily, if I hadn't looked that up, I would have included faith. But faith to me is not a moral standard. It's a belief. It's trust. It's hope. I believe in justice. I believe in integrity. I believe in courage. Justice, integrity, and courage. I will narrow it down. As a moral value, as a standard, I will eliminate integrity. Because that is a core value. That is something that is inherent. It's something you actually have to break to deviate from. I believe integrity is inherent until selfish desires come into it. And for those come both courage to overcome and to learn, and justice to receive recompense for the actions and the choices that we make. Justice or courage? Which virtue do I value the most? Out of the two, courage. Because as much as I might not agree with someone's choices and they have to face justice, I can still acknowledge the courage to overcome standards, the courage to overcome situations, and the courage to face fear. Because to me, something that is disgusting is cowardice. Even in the face of something wrong. Someone who's done something terrible can only be made worse by cowardice. It comes to mind I don't even know if I want to say it. Things like bank robberies where the offender ends up committing suicide by cop. It's cowardice. It's getting out of facing justice. But to me, courage would be realizing what you've done and having the guts to face the consequences for what you've done. Because justice is the consequence, but it takes courage to face the consequences. Good or bad, it takes courage to face the consequences. And to me, that is more honorable than just delivering justice. Who are you closest to? A parent, a friend, significant other, a teacher, a colleague, a sibling, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, or I'm not close to anyone. Of course it would be a significant other. I'm also very close
I know it ain't me.
to my... Shut up! I'm also very close to my parents and my sibling.
Kiss up.
Which... Please, they're not gonna watch this.
Huh?
They're not gonna watch this. Which one of these... I'm already an hour into it. Which one of these statements best describes your charitable giving habits? I don't see the point of charity. I rarely give to charity. I give money to charities when I remember. I always take part in office bake sales and raffles. I do sponsor sporting events for charities often. I regularly volunteer for a worthwhile cause. I regularly donate money to disaster relief programs. I regularly donate money to a specific charity that means something to me. Or I regularly donate money to charities that I have researched and believe to be the most effective. I wish I could say that. Unfortunately, I give money to charities when I remember to. Mostly when either cashiers ask me to, or I encounter opportunities to, but I don't always remember because it's not in the forefront of my mind. I can humbly admit it is not in the forefront of my mind. How would you describe, how would your friends describe you? Anything?
What?
How would your friends describe you?
Intelligent.
Thanks.
Fun.
You didn't even look at the list.
No, I saw it. Confident.
Yeah.
Ambitious. Sensible.
So all of them.
Curious. Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. Yeah.
That's about it.
Any particular one that stands out?
Kind.
That's bullcrap.
Sensible.
Huh. Alright. I would have said spontaneous, but sensible.
No, you're not.
You got humanism. You believe that through utilizing the faculty of reason, humans are able to improve their own lives and progress. You reject tradition, instead advocate scientific inquiry. I suppose that's as close as a test like this can come to true. I buy that. And the last and final quiz, because go away, I didn't invite you here.
Oh, okay.
Not you.
Okay, bye.
The last and final quiz, because I promised all of you 3. We'll keep on trucking. Who are you based on your answer to the world's greatest philosophical questions? Let's get started. Do we have souls? I believe yes. Hold on, let me narrow the viewing field here.
I have no soul.
Yes, you do. Who decides what is moral? Can we have a definition search on moral? Moral. Concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of human character. Ooh, that's a very specific answer and I like it. The basis of good and bad for human behavior. You could say society defines it, which could be very true. We put a lot of rules on what is good and what is bad, and those are constantly shifting. Each individual for themselves. I don't believe that's true. I believe it's ingrained in us from a young age. Religion, also a high possibility. We're given a very set rules of what is good and what is bad, but a lot of those are retracted. Like things in the Old Testament no longer are bad because the New Testament has revamped it. Law. Law does a very good job of telling us what is good, what is bad, what is okay, and what is not okay for humans to do. Let us revisit this one more time. Concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior, the goodness or badness of human character, holding or manifesting high principles of proper conduct. In this regard, as much as I want to say society defines it, that specific definition leads me to believe law. It's the goodness or badness of human character, and that is only defined by the laws we put on us as a society. Not necessarily by any true sense of good or bad, but by what we're told is good and bad. Is our universe real? It's real to me, and it's real I hope to the rest of us. When I say us, I mean humans living on this earth, in this universe. It might not actually be real. I have this idea that was presented to me. It was the idea of, what if we are all just one in someone's dream? What if we're all just living in this artificially constructed fish tank that's not actually real? But the point is, whether or not it is actually real doesn't matter, as long as it's real to us. The best example I have is, a ghost does not have to be real to haunt you. That's from The Secret Garden. Something doesn't actually have to exist to be real to someone. If you make it real, if it's real to you, if you believe in it, then it's as real as it ever can be. Do we have free will? Like I said before, this question was presented before, and I said, we do have free will, but we also have that free will under the condition of knowing that we must live with the consequences of the choices we make. So we do have free will only under the assumption that we must accept the consequences. Does God exist? I was already asked this before, and I did say I do believe so. Let me see what all the answers say. It says yes, no, I'm not sure, but I act as if he does, or we can never really know. Those last two are very interesting. Because I could say, yes, God exists, but then you could turn around and say to me, where is your proof? And I don't have proof. So actually, as much as I don't want to click on that one, the answer that says, I'm not sure, but I act as if he does, is the most fitting to my present situation. Because I don't have any way to verify to you whether he does or does not. I only have my faith, my belief that he exists. So I can't prove to you that God exists, but I act every day as though he does.
Yep.
Fair?
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
It's a theological answer, too. It's a common sense
Is there
answer.
life after death? Again, the realist, the faithfulness in me wants to say yes, but the realist in me says we can never know, because we won't know until we die.
You never know what you do till you try.
I can tell you, yes, because I believe in God, but again, you're going to ask me, where's your proof? And I can't give you proof. So the only answer I can give you, because it doesn't give me any other answer to give you except, I don't know. We can never know until we die. Until we die, there is no answer. Does life have meaning? This presents me with the option to say it depends on the life, and based on my other answers, you might think I would pick that, but every life has meaning. To me, every single life, even if it's the most isolated life, plays meaning. Every life has meaning as long as we give meaning to that life. If that life was a life that was loved, or a life that has given experience or taken experience away, or had their own consciousness, had their own experiences, it was a life worth living, in my opinion. I would say yes, all life has meaning. Why are we here? To be moral, to add beauty to the world, to do God's will. I haven't thought about it, or there is no reason. Well, I just said that every life has meaning, so clearly there's a reason we're supposed to be here. I don't think it's to be moral, because, again, consulting moral, concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior, the goodness or badness of human character. I don't think we're here to be good. We're not just here to be good little sheep. We're not just, we're good, I'm good, everybody's good, because if everybody were good, this world would be horrendously boring. There would be no rule benders. There would be no people seeking further answers. There would be no challenging to questions. No one would ever play devil's advocate to find answers. If everybody did what was good, and everybody did what was socially constructed to be right, we would never get anywhere. Because we'd all just accept that everything was right. That's not why we're here. To add beauty to the world. That is entirely narcissistic, believing that my presence here on Earth adds beauty to this universe.
It does.
Thank you.
It does.
But
it adds
that
a ton
would
of
be,
sexiness.
Wow. But that would be... Shut up! That would be horrendously narcissistic of me to say that I add beauty to the world. But I will counter that by saying perhaps what we create, what we can achieve, is what's beautiful. Not that my presence is necessarily adding beauty.
It does.
Shut up! But that what we as humans can create, can achieve, can construct, can theorize and build and invent is... Don't scroll up! You did not just refresh my page. Fine. I'll go back to it. Law. Fine. Yes. I think I waited too long to answer the question. Ugh. There. I'm back. Okay. You all know what I was going to answer anyway. So, we as humans, I believe, add beauty to the world in our own individual and in our achievements and in the way that we all contribute to make the world different. The world is ever changing, the cultures are different, and in our diversities, that makes us beautiful. Are people fundamentally good? That's a very hard question. I want to say no. Because I can look at the bad in the world and I can say, not everything bad happened to you. There are people, you can look at the school shooters. You can look at the people who go in and just murder cops. You can look at the people who go out and just commit hateful crimes against people for no reason. The people who are sexist, the people who are racist, the people who are prejudiced against other people for no reason other than their own hatred. But at the same time, I say, look at a child. A child is completely innocent. A child will go up to another child regardless of their gender, regardless of their color, regardless of their religion, regardless of anything else, regardless of their political standing, and a child will just walk up to another child without hesitation, without fear, because children are not afraid. Children do not hate. Children do not experience racism or bigotry or sexism. Looking at that, I can only say the people who are corrupted are become corrupted based on their environment. Not because anyone necessarily did anything or that it's anyone else's fault, but their perception of the world warps to be something it was not meant to be. But inherently, I believe we all start out good, and what we become is based on how we perceive the world and how the world reacts to us. I believe people are fundamentally good. Results. Seeker. You are a questioner. You are constantly seeking answers to deep, abstract queries. Your mind is almost never calm. You're always thinking about new ideas and trying to resolve paradoxes. You see the value of the process of thinking more than having concrete answers. Did we nail it? Tell us in the comments. I'm not going to comment, but this is pretty accurate. I am someone who plays devil's advocate. I am a seeker. I look for answers. More than it's not so much that I want answers, it's I enjoy asking the questions because I want to hear other people's answers. There is no right answer. There is no right or wrong answer. It's your answer. So this is very accurate. Okay, I'm going to leave it off here. We did our 3 quizzes. That was a lot of questions, but as I promised before, we are going to go through, in a few videos from now, the 200 philosophical questions. We are going to do it. It's going to be a long haul, and I hope you'll stick with me for that. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Bye-bye!